You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In the studio with me now is Ms. Trish Melvin from Fruitland, Mr. Jim Atkins from Mardella. Thank you both for being here.
Sure.
So we were all three in attendance at the last county council meeting last Tuesday. And one of the things we haven't covered yet is they tabled two resolutions to combine positions in public works to create one new position, specifically the litter coordinator. Mm-hmm. And Trish, I know that you were at that meeting, but did you really understand really the movement of what was going on?
I can't say that I did. Part of it's my fault because when we start talking about the landfill, I do kind of glaze over a little bit because I'm not up to date on all the facts. And I have trouble following the facts because I hear new positions, consolidated positions, open positions, and I don't know where we are at one point in time. Yeah. So I didn't catch it all.
It's easy to glaze over it because it's a lot of numbers. I think that the thing is when you go to take your trash out, if they don't pick your trash up because the landfill is closed, people would stop glazing over it pretty quickly. Jim, you don't miss very many meetings in a year. You and I have seen this work through since really February when they started combining a couple positions. Mike Swavey, the former deputy director of Public Works, gave a presentation in March.
So the question is, in the fiscal environment we're in, how can the county provide this level of support to ensure that education, research, collection, and disposal remains sustainable? Now, we've had multiple discussions between the county and Wycomico Clean, and they did give us a draft of what the job role could look like. And the recycling coordinator's scope of work being reduced by something that takes a lot of attention and time, I believe that the recycling coordinator will be able to give the litter program its due and bring it to the next level because she's already trained in and very successfully conducts these types of activities. So if we look at this in a fiscally conservative way, we should conduct a cost-neutral move of moving two positions into one, keeping the salary the same as those two positions were. That's done. Slightly shift the program duties for which there is an existing position. That's done effective April 2nd. Document the commitment to council, the public, and to MDE. That's done with the 10-year plan, with a 2-year follow-up, intermittently throughout the 10 years. With the duty realignment in place, expecting no additional cost.
Vice President of the Council, Jeff Merritt, referenced that on Tuesday's meeting. Again, someone like Trish may not have understood where that came from. Right. What I think we ought to do is bring in Mike Goldberg because Mike has been following this from the landfill side, and Public Works is roads and landfill, amongst some other things too. But those are the two major ones that people in the county know. I think we should bring Mike in and go through some of that history, and then I'd like to bring you back in, Trish, and just see what you found out.
Okay.
All right?
Sounds good.
So stay with us. When we come back, we're actually going to give you some of the history of the position consolidation in Public Works. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. In the studio with us now is Mr. Mike Goldberg from Del Mar. Thank you for coming out.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jim Atkins, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, sure.
So we saw at the last county council meeting last Tuesday that they tabled a resolution that was brought to them by the Public Works Department.
This evaluation has been completed, and we are recommending that we implement the title of a community litter coordinator. We are looking to, it would be a new position, so it is a new position control number, it is a new title, and thus we are asking for it to be funded from contingency to start on October 2nd with the next pay period.
Looking back at the minutes from the work session that we had back in March, when we talked about this, it says that the duties for this position were going to be reassigned to other employees, and so there'd be no additional cost to the county. And I guess I'll quote this: I believe the fiscally intelligent thing to do would be recognize these duties, but that's all been done, and to have the existing recycling coordinator take on the work I think there's been some personnel changes over there in the past several days. Do you think we should pause this until we get a better handle on what's going on over there?
The recycling coordinator position is in the solid waste division, which is a fully funded enterprise fund. So as such, ultimately, even if we eliminated a position at solid waste, which they, after further reevaluation since that period of time, since that work session, they feel they still need the recycling coordinator position. Even if we had eliminated the position at solid waste, the general fund would have had to increase because you can't transfer between solid waste and general fund because solid waste funds itself.
And I want to explain to everybody exactly what happened and why that happened, because this is something they've done before. Specifically this time, they tabled combining two positions to create the litter coordinator. And, Jim, you've been at most of the meetings, and Mike, you've seen them too. The Wicomico Clean group has really stepped it up. They've been out there. They've taken control, right?
With a fantastic group of volunteers who are keeping our roadsides clean.
Yeah, Bruce Robeson, Councilman Jeff Merritt's part of it, Mikkel Darlene, James Darlene. I mean, they get out there and they're weighing the trash that they're picking up by the ton, not by the bag. So they were going to talk about, and we started this conversation back in March of 2025 with a presentation that Deputy Director of Public Works Mike Swavey presented to the council in a work session about combining two positions from Public Works to create a litter coordinator. And specifically, they were thinking of using the lady in the county who already is the recycling coordinator. And this is a situation where they've taken two mid-level salaries, combined them together, and were able to get someone who's got more experience and supervisory type of role to coordinate the litter pickup, specifically safety, picking up the litter once it's been collected, and also directing, outreach. Yep. That's like education and that sort of thing. They had just done this, Jim, right? Back in February.
Yeah. That was one of the things that the council kept talking to the executive group about when they were addressing the public, that they wanted to see a litter coordinator. And they were told at that time that there would be a litter coordinator appointed.
Okay. So now when they did a similar maneuver back in February at the landfill, they took two operator positions that had not been filled for many years, or for several months at least, and they combined them into an environmental compliance technician. And it's actually someone I've gotten to interview, Carissa Gortz, who works at the landfill now. She collects all the data, and I actually got a chance to see all the data points that she collects from all the different test wells and all the compliance. She handles that. So that worked out well within the landfill itself. That's part of Public Works. But there was an issue here, and Director of Finance Pam Olin brought up the fact that the landfill is an enterprise fund, right, and the roads is not. Right. And although they both fall under Public Works, they're two different accounts. So the compliance director or the environmental compliance technician they hired was just in the landfill. That was fine. But because this litter coordinator would actually work in roads, they couldn't just move the money from recycling. Is that correct?
They wanted to reassign from Public Works to the landfill, move the position from one pot to the next. And that pot was just basically a transfer of the person and the money. Wasn't going to involve any additional cost to the county. Wasn't going to be any additional employees. It was just moving them from point A to point B. The second person that they were looking to hire was an additional person at an additional salary. And the council put both of them on hold for a very good reason. And that reason being that there is no deputy director of Public Works. There is no director of Public Works. And the council felt like and still feels like how can you make changes to a department when you don't have anybody running that department in charge of it? So now is not the time to go in there and make new positions and come up with new things when you don't have a director or a deputy director.
And when those positions are filled, whoever is filling, the director or deputy director position may have a different approach, a different vision. Yeah. So if you do something now, you get the new lady or man in there, then it's going to change, and you just have a bit more chaos.
So let's talk about that. I mean, we saw back in May that they brought on Mustafa Kulkarson.
Yes.
Mustafa Kulkarson, Director of Public Works.
They actually had to raise his salary all the way up to the top to be the Director of Public Works. But he only lasted 3 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks, and then he was gone.
He resigned.
Yes, he resigned and left the county. And of course, it's a personnel issue. Nobody knows why he left the county, but when you apply for a job and you tell the county that the salary you're offering is not sufficient, this is how much I need to come take that job. The county gives the person that amount of money to do that job, and then they only last 3 or 4 weeks.
Clearly, there was more going on than just a salary issue.
Well, and you brought this up back in the spring. He was an engineer. He could stamp plans.
Yes, he was a registered professional engineer who was authorized by the state of Maryland to sign and seal construction documents.
And construction documents similar to like building Cell 7.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he decided to leave for whatever reason. Yeah. And we did see, and we referenced the presentation that Mike Swavey made, and Councilman Jeff Merritt, or Vice President Jeff Merritt, also made reference to this presentation where the money would be moved, but it was a net zero. But Mike Swavey's not with the county anymore.
Exactly.
So
he was fired. He did not resign. He was fired.
He was fired, yes.
And I'd like to point out why it's important to have a professional engineer as the head of a department such as Public Works. It's not just about signing and sealing construction documents, but there's also a code of ethics that is involved. You swear, that you will uphold public safety, et cetera, et cetera. A degreed engineer who is not a registered professional engineer is not bound by that code of ethics.
Yeah. So it's like having someone do your retirement planning who's not a fiduciary versus, say, someone who just understands bookkeeping really well.
Right.
So
yeah, and I think this is a big reason why the council decided not to move ahead with either one of the 2 recommendations. I mean, the Director of Public Works was chosen by this executive and her people and only lasted 3 or 4 weeks. The Deputy Director was chosen by this administration and her people, and they fired him. So, the council's given the executive the people she wants to do this job, but they don't last.
They not only approved both of her first selections for those positions, they approved the budget increase to the top of the line salary. And so it's odd. And the county executive several times has said, look, the county council just won't let me do what I need to do.
Yeah.
But under what circumstances has she been held back from what she wanted to do? Under this,
she hasn't been. Essentially, the executive has been given everything that she has asked for. Now, there have been nominees for acting director of Public Works that have been denied by the council. They did not confirm that individual. She was not a registered professional engineer, and from my experience, it's highly unusual to have somebody in a director's position in Public Works that does not have that registration.
And my understanding is that is a requirement for that job.
Yeah.
And, you can't be hired for a job if you don't have the necessary requirements or you're not in the process of obtaining them. It's one thing to hire somebody who is in the process of getting that. A lot of people are hired in that way. And, you have 6 months or 9 months in order to finish what you need and to be certified. And we're going to go ahead and let you have that position. But when you don't have it and you're not trying to obtain it, there's no reason to put you in a job like that.
And then it also puts the county in a position, if they don't have a registered PE, that they have to outsource, any documents to make them official by the signature and seal of a registered professional engineer. Costs more money.
So let's circle back to what we covered back in July. The county executive came out and said on June 30th, no less, that the landfill was going to start to close on Saturdays, and then we would be closed on Saturdays and Tuesdays at this point if her plan had gone through. We were told, Mike, that the request for bids for Cell 7 would be out at the end of August.
That's what we were told, but that is not what has happened.
Are they out?
Actually, they
You
said
checked?
that it would be at the beginning of August, to the best of my recollection. Now, here we are. We're entering the fourth week of September, and there is still no request for construction bids posted on the county's procurement website.
So this is really why people out there should be concerned, because we've been told by the county executive and the part of her team that's left that it's going to take 6 months at least to construct Cell 7.
I'm skeptical about that.
6 to 12 is probably more likely. 6 would have to be a lot of perfect things happening. But we were also told that we're going to run out of landfill space by July or August of 2026.
You would think they'd be in a little bit more of a hurry. And, this isn't the only inconsistency in what we've been told. You might recall that several months ago, the acting landfill superintendent, Adam Corey, I forget the exact numbers, but first he asserted that the construction documents, the plans, were 75% complete, and then it went up to 90%, and then down to 60%, and now back up to 90%. At 90% documents, you can easily put that job out to bid. If there's any changes between the 90 and 100% documents, they can still award a contract and negotiate any additional or reduced costs. So we have just the level of completion of the documents. We have the time frame for when it will go out to bid. And from my experience, I simply don't buy unless they get absolutely perfect weather over the winter that they're going to get this constructed in 6 months. It's highly improbable.
Well, thank you both very much. I want to bring Trish Melvin back in because she was also at this meeting. And we just laid out a lot of information, and I want to really get a feel for just how easy is this to follow. I understand this is not the easiest thing and not the most exciting thing to follow.
What could be more exciting than this?
Well, it'll be exciting when you can't take your trash to the landfill on a Saturday. So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to bring back in Trish Melvin and follow up with the landfill. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. In the studio with us again is Miss Trish Melvin from Fruitland. Thanks for coming back.
Good to be here.
Thanks for sticking around, Jim.
Sure.
So we got a lot of information from Mike and a lot of background from Jim as well. There is a lot that has happened with consolidating positions back even in February that probably worked out with hiring the environmental compliance technician. But now you're seeing another set of circumstances that started back in March with the presentation that former Deputy Director of Public Works Mike Swavey presented, where there was a net zero to the county. And now we're being told by the finance director that there would be an additional cost because they're two different accounting departments. So how do you feel about this resolution being tabled and possibly even this costing the taxpayers more money?
Yeah, I don't think that there is a choice. If we don't have the people in place to administer the new positions, what good does it have to hire people to do these things? I mean, first of all, I think it is great that we're going to have a litter coordinator. I think the work that Wicomico Clean has been doing is needed, and I can see a difference. However, I am concerned, maybe even more now after being informed by Mike, just given the degree of uncertainty.
Okay.
A lot of open positions and talk of consolidating positions, and now it's on hold. So,
Well, Jim, you referenced in the last segment about letting the new bosses, so to speak, the director and deputy director, hire these positions because you would want them to have the buy-in, right?
Have the buy-in, have their own people there.
Yeah. as many of these meetings as you've watched, do you feel like we're on the right track to get this litter coordinator position? Because it's not a done deal at this point.
No, it's not a done deal. It's hard to tell if we're on the right track or not. The council meetings, even though they are informative, people don't get the whole story and get the in-depth vision. And I'm not advocating people sit there and read the briefing book because it gets very dry. It's like reading a dictionary at times. But there is so much more information in the council briefing book that if you do read it in something that you are concerned about, you have a better understanding when you get into a council meeting of what they're talking about.
You got a couple council members who haven't read the briefing book too.
You've got that. You can tell by the questions that are being asked who has read the briefing book and who hasn't, and who doesn't have a clue what's going on in that council meeting. Mm. But without a head of the Department of Public Works, we're just. They say that Bunky Luffman is running the Department of Public Works. Is what they.
That's what Director of Finance Pamela said.
Yes, and that's his responsibility, but.
If I'm asking the right people the right question, but when we don't have a Public Works Director or a Deputy Director, who's actually in charge of Public Works?
The Director of Administration.
When you don't have a deputy and you don't have a director, it's another handful on Bunky. And is he able to devote enough time out there with all the things that are going on? Because Public Works right now has Cell 7 that they are up against the wall with. And they have the dredge material at Sharps Point that they're up against the wall with. Because a very interesting fact that I noticed here in the past week that came out in approaching the council to get the $2.3 million to move the sludge out of Sharps Point.
We are required by the Army Corps of Engineers to get 100,000 cubic yards out of Sharps Point by October 1st of 2025 if we want to stay in rotation to maintain our dredging at on the Wacomico River, or in the Wacomico River, whichever way you say dredging, sorry, at. So if we want to maintain our place in line and keep the river open for the boat traffic that we have on the river, we need to remove 100,000 cubic yards by October 1st.
There is a deadline,
October 1st.
October 1st, by the Army Corps of Engineers that it has to be moved, or there's a possibility they may skip the Wacomico again and move on to other places. So, October 1st is next week.
So that was presented at the April 15th meeting.
Yes.
By Director of Finance Pamela, and
Yes.
when they asked for the initial $2.3 million to move the first 100,000 cubic yards out of Sharps Point.
Yes.
She said they have to move that 100,000 just to get the dredging done on this cycle.
Yes.
They came back later for another $7.5 million to get the other 300,000 cubic
Exactly.
yards out. So Trish, you go to some of the meetings. Mm-hmm. You're catching up on a lot of the information. Cell 7 is behind on the construction. Mm-hmm. We may be behind on dredging the Wacomico River, and we don't have a Director of Public Works or a Deputy Director of Public Works. What's your enthusiasm level right now of your county's functionality?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as enthusiastic. I'd say I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the year that the pension fund is going to get another large infusion of money because county's saving a lot of money on salaries and not getting work done that's supposed to get done. So all these things that were budgeted, there's going to be leftover money.
Well,
so
that's a great point. And look, I went back out Design Road the other day, and this was been brought up a few times. I mean, that road is an access point for ambulances. It's a thoroughfare for people on the east side of the county.
Yes.
It's in a crumbling state of affairs, and we did find out in the last fiscal year that there was $500,000 in the Department of Public Works that was not spent on paving, and so it wasn't used on paving, and it was a legal move, but the county executive and her finance team moved that $500,000 in savings directly into the pension fund. of the county employees. Now, from the presentation, it seems like it is behind on the funding. They want to be at 80% funded, and it was in the 70s. But if we're just not going to pave roads, if we're just not going to build cells, if we're just not going to take care of the county just so we can prop up the pension fund, I mean, where is literally the rubber going to meet the road?
Well, and Zion Road and Zion Church Road are classic examples because one of the two largest employers of Wycomico County, that is a major road for their trucks to come in and out of that granary and to haul their produce out, not their produce, but their products. And, that's a major important road to that company.
Yeah. I mean, there's potholes on potholes on potholes, and I'm not sure that the cold patch is going to stick anymore.
Yeah, I don't think that road is repairable. I think that road has to be remade. You can't go in there and just try to fill holes and fix that road. It's not going to last.
That sub base at this point has definitely gotten wet and would probably not hold up to an asphalt top coat, at least there. So, well, thank you, Trish. Thanks for coming out. Thank you, Jim. So thanks for watching this episode of Open Agenda. We'll be back later this week with another new episode.
I'm not going to go into that aspect. It's not the item up for discussion today.